If I talk like this, can you hear me? Probably. Okay. Yosemite. The reason why is because it's just this open, vast area of nature, and the big mega structure there, the granite stone, what's it called? Half Dome. Half Dome is just an amazing place to just look at. The thing about Yosemite is that it was once filled with glaciers. The whole area was filled with glaciers during the last ice age, but as that ended, as the ice age ended, all these glaciers melted up, and what was left was just these structures. Maybe they were shaped by the glaciers. I just know that they were covered in ice at one point. The argument is, like I said, 83 cents to a man's dollar. That basically means that women are making 83 cents for every dollar that a man makes. So, like, let's say, for example, a man makes $100, women made $83, and there's statistics that show this. But I think people have to be very careful with the statistics that they're looking at and what they really show. Statistics are just what is, but they don't explain. If you look into it, you could see that women are actually making less than men because of maternal leave, different job occupations, and different job hours. Those are the main three things. Usually women tend to choose jobs that pay less than a man's job. I'm not saying I'm on the right or that I'm on the left. I actually don't even know where I land on the political spectrum, and I don't even like to identify, because if I identify, then people are going to already see me a certain way. So, but I do think that in order to be objective and to understand knowledge and to understand reality and the world around us, we have to listen to both sides. With me, I got my good friend, the Bird.
What's going on, fam?
Damian Felix.
That's right.
Did we finish talking about the Weird Wave coffee shop? How it was vandalized 9 times?
I don't get how it gets vandalized 9 times though. Like, what is this coffee shop doing?
They blame the people that are protesting gentrification for doing this. Do you think that's justified?
9 times though? Like, if they had a banner saying, you know, F the Mexicans, I could understand how it would get vandalized, but...
This is his quote. I didn't come to Boyle Heights to change Boyle Heights. I came to sell people coffee.
That's the owner?
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Right? I mean, I don't think it's justified for people to be vandalizing his private property.
But going back on what we were talking about, value, depends who you talk to, you know? Everybody's got those people who are chill.
It's because it has nothing or almost not anything to do with race as much as it does with the individual. If an individual is cool, you're going to find them cool.
Man, in the US, is racism just white people shitting on minorities, or does it also apply to...
Well, why wouldn't it apply to people fighting against whites? I mean, you're basically fighting against them because no one wants to hear the truth, man. I mean, people...
That's my main issue, that we act racist towards whites, but it's seen as okay, you know? Like, they've oppressed us, they deserve this fucking racism.
And you know what? In our society, in the United States, it's perfectly fine to shit on a white person. Whereas it's not okay to shit on a minority group.
Oh no.
You can't shit on minority. No, you could say, oh, that's white people shit, or like, oh, that's so white of you, you know?
Yeah,
or like,
you'll just laugh it off, you know.
Yeah,
but
like,
you say, oh, that's some black shit.
Oh,
what the fuck you mean that's black shit? You know, like,
yeah.
Hey man, what the fuck, you just shitted on white people? Like, I thought we were just all cool like that.
I mean, the real world isn't what kind of job you could be expected to have if you don't go to college or...
You sign up that day, and that same day, you're hired.
I mean, people that need a job are going to find it at warehouses.
Exactly, man. And warehouse work, it's like, it's never permanent, like for people who are just looking for a quick job, you know? For those who basically set their lives working there, then it's tough because they lay you off and you got to go somewhere else, and it's just crazy, you know? It's a fucked up experience overall. Like, it feels like they use you, and after they're done using you, they let you go, and then you're off to find another warehouse, you know?
House job, they give it to you the day of. So you go to the employment agency, and because there's so many warehouses, they give you the job that day. They ask you, can you work today? Like, do you have anything planned, basically? Like, are you
Yeah.
going to go see your girlfriend? Or are you going to go do this and that? Or whatever. And if not, we could give you the job today.
Yeah.
So they write down the address for you. They tell you, this is where you got to go. This is who you got to speak to. And then, just like that, you're working at a warehouse. Entire quarter, man, I was just unloading refrigerators. I was unloading wine coolers, you know, heavy shit.
Yeah,
I was unloading heavy shit the last 10 weeks, basically, because it consumed all of my quarter two in my third year of college. And I was just unloading heavy shit, you know?
Yeah,
it's
man.
just, it's hard labor. And they pay you bare minimum, you know?
Yeah, man. I actually worked a 19-hour shift this summer.
Fuck.
And what do you think it is, though, that no matter how much you don't like something, you'll still show up? You know, like your conscience kind of eats at you if you don't show up. It's kind of like you could apply this to class. Like if you wake up one morning and you're like, I don't want to go, and you don't go, you're just thinking about it the rest of the day, you know?
Yeah.
But like for work, it's truly fucked up. But for some reason, I would still get up and go. How some of those people really take their work serious. Like, they really want to get the job done.
Oh, yeah, man. I know what you mean.
Not only get it done, but get it done in an efficient manner.
Exactly. And they're getting paid the same as you are.
Exactly.
It's weird. Like, they have this attachment to their job. Like, they actually have a moral duty to execute this job the best way possible.
I just kept thinking about that every day that I showed up. I'm like, why do these guys kill themselves or want to kill themselves if we're all getting paid the same?
And they get stressed, man. And they get stressed. Like, if, let's say, for example, they're missing an item. Like, after we finished one of these other containers, we were just, like, literally unwrapping pallets to find one box.
Oh, man.
And we were transferring to different pallets. We were just looking for one box out of, like, these small-ass boxes. And I'm like, why the fuck does this matter to everyone so much?
Man, I was notorious at losing shit.
Myself, I'm not strictly conservative or strictly liberal or strictly Democrat or strictly Republican. Like, when it comes to matters of climate change, the conservative view is that it doesn't exist.
That's
And
some
I'm
bullshit.
Like, how the fuck doesn't it exist?
I
like,
know.
When it comes to that matter, I side with the left. You know, it does
Yeah.
exist, and I feel we need to do something about
It's
it.
because ideologies, all these ideas are categorized into two sides, and that's very disadvantageous because now you're not able to decipher what's actually true. So my advice to everyone out there is do your own research, do your own investigation, listen to both sides, and decipher what's actually true and what you want to believe.
Yeah, that's what's cool about politics. I feel that you're given information, and it just comes down to you. And you determine the way you interpret that information
Yeah.
and the views you choose to follow, you know?
Yeah.
So if you feel that you side more with the left on certain topics, that's perfectly fine. If you feel you sided with the right, conservative, although it is this perception of the right is bad, just know that it's okay too, you know?
Yeah, I think people need to really, really hear that because when, like I said previously, like the word conservative, the word Republican, that's always given a negative connotation. That's always given this bigotry, this racist kind of connotation to the word, you know? And it's definitely more than just that. Yeah,
Politics affects your day-to-day lives, as we've mentioned before.
it does.
So it should be implemented at the high school level. And because honestly, man, when we were in high school, I didn't feel we were educated at all when it came down to this.
And we were in government, we were in like the politics classes. Don't pick a team, man.
Yeah, it's not about that. When if you put politics in that under that mentality, then it becomes more competition than this fight for democracy or unity as a country, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Plato had this one. He wrote about this whole thing that democracy is detrimental to society because it's basically the rich educated people versus the poor uneducated, and that causes a civil strife, you know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it rings true even today. I mean, Plato he's been dead for a long ass time, and
Yeah.
those words still ring true in the 21st century. And the news question?
I have it.
Man,
I almost went into
I got
this
I got a story about that. So one time I was at the student union at Cal State LA, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad, you know, and I was I was racing to find a restroom. I couldn't find one, and I found one on the second floor of the student union, and I just rushed in. And I saw when I walked in, I saw urinals, so I thought automatically, you know, this is a guy's restroom.
Yeah.
So I went to the stalls, and like a couple moments later, a woman walks in, and I'm like, oh shit! And I could tell it was a woman because I could hear the heels, you know, like clacking on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, clack, clack. And I was just like sticking around on the nest with Adrian Alvarado, multinational, multi-state amateur boxing champion and runner-up.
What is it though, man? Like, is it all physical or do you feel it's mental too? When you walk into the ring, do you feel ready or do the nerves overcome you? Like, what is it?
It's a little bit of both, man.
Yeah?
'Cause it's not really nerves, but it's just like, fuck, like, I already worked out. Like, damn, I'm tired and this and that. And then the thing about me, man, it sucks, and I gotta get over this. But my biggest problem is like myself, like my head. Like if I get cracked, I get super mad and I just start coming forward. Like
I know what you
man.
mean.
it's
I know what you mean.
It's
Yeah,
bad.
exactly. Like, and I got knocked down like
Yeah.
that one time. It's
Yeah.
it used to go when lights go out, and then you're like, what the fuck happened? And they're like, you gotta. When you get into a situation like that, you gotta maintain your composure.
Yeah, you gotta keep calm, because once you lose it, you already lost everything.
Yeah.
He already got you. The guy's already got you.
Yeah, we were
So-
talking about this the other day, how your mental strength is vital to being a professional athlete,
Everything,
man.
Yeah, you gotta. If your mentality is right, you're straight. Like if you're saying, "I got this guy," or "I got this," I'm gonna win. Or anything in any sport, you got it, man.
Yeah,
Like,
well, when you get in that scrap, like you just want to keep playing that tag game. Like you got tagged,
Yeah.
now the guy's gonna want to tag you back, and then it goes back and forth, and then before you
Yeah.
know it, you guys are exchanging wild punches.
and then you lose your
dangerous,
head, and
man.
you never know, man. That wild punch can knock you out.
Yeah.
Do you
So-
train
so-
for that? Do they train you for those type of situations?
No, they train you to
no.
not get into those kinds
Yeah.
of situations,
Not
man.
into this.
Because if you get into those just back and forth, just hooks, there's no technique in just throwing hooks
Yeah,
at each
no.
other.
It's deadly, man. And like some people, like you never know, the opponent might be just wild and boom, just hit you with something crazy.
It'll come down to speed then, because if the guy
Honestly.
throws hands faster than you, then he's gonna crack you at a faster rate than you're cracking him.
Man, it's scary, man. Especially like knowing that you're not fighting just another person. You're fighting another person that's trained.
Yeah.
Like the way Eddie
Yeah.
Bravo told you that. You're going up against somebody who's trained to fuck you up.
Yeah.
You know that's just
Hey,
scary.
That's the thing,
Hey.
man. Like you walk into a gym, you're not walking in to beat someone up on the street, man. You learn that in 3 weeks. You learn how to beat up a regular person on the street in 3 weeks. You're going in there to train to defeat someone that's actually training to defeat you back, you know?
That's the thing about boxing too. Like you might think there's bums out there, but hey, you never know. Those bums are
You never
in
know.
those bums are in there to fuck someone up. Those bums are in there to get their money and make their living.
Fuck,
Like
man.
I've seen that so many times. Like there's boxers where they just put like whatever guy in front of them, but that whatever guy wanted it more than the boxer who is projected to win.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. You gotta want it, and you gotta have the mentality straight. Like you're in there to fuck someone up.
Yeah.
You're in there. You know, the other guy has 2 hands. You have 2 hands. You know, both of you guys know how to use them. You never know what could happen. It's just crazy. You never know what could happen. Like I seen guys with headgears get knocked out. Like, damn, like dude, what the hell? Like with headgear, it's like oh shit. And MMA, like I don't know if you guys use like.
We don't use headgear.
No, you use headgear, huh?
No.
So like, what kind of ounce gloves? Like 14? Or...
Well, if we're doing boxing or like
Mhm.
Muay Thai training, we'd use the 14-ounce gloves. But
Yeah.
if we're doing MMA training, we'd use the 4-ounce gloves.
Yeah, you see that? I can't even do that.
Yeah, man, and no
Man.
headgear because
Like-
if we're doing MMA training, like the headgear's just gonna get in the way when you're doing grappling. So,
Yeah.
and
Like-
you're gonna get cracked either way. Like,
Uh.
it sucks.
Man, I remember feeling fucking nervous before I played a game of basketball. I can't imagine how the fuck you guys feel going
No,
into the
man.
ring, man.
Dude, going into it, like I said, like going
You're
into
for baseball, I'm like, fuck, I'm nervous. this whole conception of figuring out what the fuck's out there, how far it is, how much whatever it is weighs, it could all be proven, man. It all adds up. It's like we've sent fucking rovers and shit to Mars.
Do you believe that we went to the moon?
To the moon? I mean, China went to the moon a couple months ago.
What's your explanation for that? Why don't you think we went?
There's really no evidence, or is there? Like video proof?
I mean, the whole like the way they the explanation for how we got there and how we got back, to me, it just sounds like our technology of the time was not ready for those kinds of, those activities, man. Top of that rocket was this like lunar module, and that was supposed to detach from the rockets as soon as we exited the Earth's atmosphere. And that small like lunar module is supposed to have traveled all the way to the moon. And then once we got to the moon, like the orbit of the moon, that lunar module was supposed to separate from what is the orbiter. And the orbiter was, I forgot who was inside the orbiter, but basically the way it works is that the person that was in the orbiter stayed in the orbiter. Meanwhile, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong went down to the moon in the lunar module. Supposedly. By the way, they found out that one of the rocks that they supposedly gifted to, I forgot what European country was.
Yeah, it was the prime minister. So prime minister.
Yeah, it was petrified wood. They did tests on it. They had to time it in a certain way through mathematics or whatever they do. And when that thing went over their heads, they had to have shot up so like perfectly that it lines up. The orbiter catches the lunar module or whatever it is by then, and then they shoot back to the Earth. And this is all before smartphones. This mission had to have gone perfect, and it was supposed to be broadcasted on live TV. We, instead of actually doing this and run the risk of people at home watching people like literally die in real time, that we would rather make this up in a Hollywood studio than to actually send people to the moon and then broadcast it live on TV. You could fit all the planets in the space between the Earth and the moon. And
You gotta search that one up, man.
Okay, look,
I don't know about
look,
that
man,
one.
listen,
I don't know
listen.
about that one.
Can you fit...
Jupiter is fucking huge.
Yes. You could fit all the planets between the Earth and the moon. That's the Earth. That's the moon. Let me see. And for the people that haven't seen this, it's just the craziest thing like ever, man.
Extreme jumping. You can see Atlas hopping up a series of platforms after jumping over a log. Pretty cool. They'll have such an affection for. Is now taking a...
Man, have you seen that episode of Black Mirror where these things are killing people? It's crazy. It's the last one. It's called Metal something.
A new brain-computer interface venture, Neuralink. The ultimate goal of this company is to merge man with machine, fusing human intelligence with artificial intelligence to bring humanity up to a higher level of cognitive reasoning. Without this technology, Musk argues that humans will be unable to keep pace with advances in artificial intelligence, and that humans will become the intellectual equivalent of the house cat.
This is not good, man. This is not good.
Man,
This sounds expensive. Who's gonna have access to this? People with money. Who is gonna remain on top?
no.
People with money.
that's what you think, man. I feel like everyone's gonna have this.
So this is not cheap technology.
Not at first, but it's gonna become
like this
cheap
shit.
technology.
How much does it cost to make an iPhone? Any phone. It's cheap, man. Even the processors used for phones are cheap. They're gonna insert this in your mind, though.
All this technology, like
being applied to the
self-automation,
population,
AI, this cognitive enhancer, everything, all of these technologies are exponential, man. Like, if you take, for example, what the technologies that we had from the 12th century all the way to the 17th century, it's like there's very little technological development. But from the 20th century all the way to where we are now, it's like we had this boom in technology and we're only getting faster at creating this advanced technology. It wasn't like they started constructing this and it took a year or whatever. It was like boom, like that, 1 week to the next. I was talking to this guy the other day and he was telling me how he could sense energy, that he could feel energy, that he could feel when something bad's gonna happen. He could feel when something good's gonna happen. He can tell when someone's gonna die soon. He can tell when there's a ghost around, that he has this sixth sense to kind of be able to detect.
Psychic.
Yeah, to kind of detect all these moving energies that live among us in this other dimension. Just talking about all these energies that they could feel, and that how when his cat was gonna die, that he could sense when his cat was gonna die. He knew something bad was gonna happen when he left the house that day. When he came back, he got run over, and how he was able to talk to his dead grandma or something like that.
How?
I don't know, but he was so convinced. Like he had so much conviction in his voice.
The thing is that when people feel that they have these abilities and shit like that, it's mostly a memory, Like they recall the feeling that they felt like let's say they got hit by a car or something, you know, they recall that feeling and instill it into the present day, and then they're like, oh, I could sense how it's, I could sense something bad's gonna happen. Joe Rogan was talking about that today, how when people say that they've been abducted by aliens, it's just a recollection of when they were first being born. You know,
That's a theory.
Fuck, that's crazy. You know,
It makes sense.
yeah.
I was like, if I tell him now that this is bullshit, he's not gonna want to talk to me about it. And I always say that if you can convince me of anything, I'll believe it. But if you can convince me solidly that of something, I will believe you. Like that's my position on Bigfoot. That's my position on aliens, Sasquatch, or Sasquatch is Bigfoot, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever, the Loch Ness monster. If someone could convince me that they're real, then I'll believe that they're real. That means that he's actually a good example of someone that could convince themselves of something that's not true, and they'll believe it, even though it's not true.
They'll forget that it's not true. And
Yeah.
they'll be like, it happened. You know, that's scary, man. That's pretty scary.
The
if you think
human
about it.
experience, the human psyche, the human conscious brain, all of that is subjective. Everything about the brain is subjective. Everything
man.
about the way we think, about even the way our food tastes, is subjective.
Yeah.
It's our own opinions that determine how we see the world around us.
Yeah.
You know?
I was taking this psychology course, and this was the topic that the whole course revolved around. The notion that memories are subjective, ideas are subjective, like who you are and the way you think is subjective. Like if you try to think back to a distant memory, what's that thing you say that you don't remember the actual memory, but you remember...
When you're remembering something, you're actually remembering the last time you remembered that something.
Yeah. And I feel that's scary, man, because you could be living a life where you think you did something, or that a situation went a certain way, but it didn't truly go that way, you know? Like, that's scary, you know?
Yeah, that's why. With me today is Jackson, owner of Weird Wave Coffee Shop, and my good friend Damian Felix.
We out here, man.
Are you evil?
No, I'm not evil.
Do you want to displace us?
I don't want to displace anybody, man. I'm pretty sure I've never displaced anybody in my whole life.
What motivated you to want to like come here to Boyle Heights and set up your shop here instead of somewhere else?
You know, truthfully, this is not the most like romantic story, but we came to Boyle Heights because it's one of the only places we could afford. So of the places we could afford, this was the one we chose.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, like honestly, there's not some like romantic story about falling in love with Boyle Heights and that. We've never displaced anybody. The space that my business occupies was vacant for 9 months, so it was an empty building. My business has actually provided 6 jobs to people who are from Boyle Heights.
That makes
born
sense.
and raised there. I think it's 6 or 7. So I've given like 4 or 5 people their first job, you know, and like 4 or 5 people have an income. Their families have an income from this. So, like, we make it a point to hire locally. I think it's really important to do that.
For whatever reason, like lately, there's been a lot of this inherited guilt put onto like white groups, even if they're not, or they don't have any like ancestry that traces back to like colonialism or anything like that. You know.
Sure.
So I mean.
Yeah, my family are Italian immigrants. You know, my great grandparents immigrated here from Italy to be farmers. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I said that before. Like a lot of people immigrated to the Americas during the 19th century. A lot of European people, like Italians, Irish people, German people, and so all these immigrants that came in, they don't have any like ancestry with the original colonial like group that came to the United States.
For sure.
Way early in the 17th century. Yeah.
These people saw us. They assumed we're somebody that we're not. They started a war about it. It's like, just come and talk to me for 5 minutes. You're gonna realize we're not that different.
Not beneficial because, like you said, it's a melting pot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cultures here, and not just American cultures either. There's like foreign cultures here, like
All kinds.
Russians, Ukrainians, Italians, like
Chinese,
Japanese.
Yep.
You'll find them everywhere.
All kinds, man.
Yeah.
And I think also people, at least in the United States, people look to LA and New York for like a little bit of a role model. Like, how are we all going to get along?
Exactly.
LA's going to figure it out, and then we're all going to follow suit. We have a responsibility. The rest of the country looks up to us that way.
Definitely, man. If you look at the history of Boyle Heights, like back in the early 1900s, this was a very diverse community. It was filled with Jewish people, Russians, Chinese, you name it, man. There was a lot of cultures here.
White people.
Yeah.
White people.
White people, Italians, Poles. I was walking in the cemetery on Lorena, Evergreen Cemetery.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you just list off
Oh,
every
yeah.
culture's in there. It's insane. It's the most diverse
Yeah.
cemetery I've ever been in.
There's a lot of like Chinese tombstones and
Chinese,
stuff. There's still
Japanese.
churches here, like Chinese
Yeah,
churches,
yeah,
like Buddhist temples and stuff.
Yes.
And like people don't even question that. Like they just look past it.
Yeah.
You don't see that there was actually like an example of diversity here, like before you even
Yes. Rich diversity.
It's
I mean, you
crazy.
guys grew up here.
Yeah.
What is it like for you to see a change?
I mean, I recognize it for what it is, you know. I know that my childhood and my early teens, like, that was just a speck in time, you know. And this, like I said before, this community has always been diverse. So we were just living in a brief moment in time where it wasn't. And now it's slowly starting to go back into it again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a cool perspective.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. I didn't really face diversity till we went to college, you know? That's when we really came across different peoples and different cultures. But for the situation here, it's like, what's the solution, man? Of course, deliberation and discourse will be the solution to many problems. But speaking about diversity, I don't think that'll really go through a lot of people's heads here. Like, they're not willing to accept the fact that this Mexican community that they consider their home is changing, you know, it's developing. So what do you guys think would be the solution to inform people, or to just like start groups on Facebook, or what would you advise?
Understand the question.
The solution. So many, like, when was the last time that they vandalized your store?
I think it was in first week of February.
February?
Yeah.
Damn.
It's not that long ago.
A little, like 6 weeks, yeah.
And that thing you said about when they kicked you out of the library, like, is there a lack of information here, or a lack of perspective? What do you think it is?
Man, I really don't know, man. Like I said, like,
Because I don't feel that way. You don't feel that way towards him or his business, or anybody else moving in, you know? So,
but I mean, the only reason I think that way is because, I mean, I went to college, you know? And when you go to a university as big as UCR, like, you're almost forced to kind of find yourself there among the diverse crowd. Before that, I didn't understand nothing about politics. I didn't understand nothing about different cultures, man. It wasn't only until I went to the university that I really understood that there's a lot of different people out here in this world, you know?
So do you think that if you wouldn't have gone to university, you would have held the same beliefs as everyone else?
Possibly. I mean, the only people that I know that think that way are people that haven't really, like, stepped out of their community.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating, dude. Like, experiencing the world changes you
It
in
does.
some way.
This guy Nipsey Hussle, he was just trying to do well for the community through his music and by trying to inspire people. But aside from that, he also did quite some interesting stuff. He was working on some interesting stuff before his untimely death. For example, he was working on a STEM program that was gonna bring in kids from the community to study and to learn at this facility. And aside from that, he was also rebuilding projects in the South LA area. He was supposed to come out in this documentary that investigated Dr. Sebi, otherwise known as Alfredo Bowman, something like that, Alfredo Bowman, but he was widely known as Dr. Sebi. So this guy, Dr. Sebi, he was this herbologist that was controversial. He was a very big name in Honduras. He was controversial because of the things that he preached. He was known as a pseudo doctor or someone that practiced pseudoscience, so a science that's not really established in the medical field. He made these bold claims, such as having found a cure for HIV and I think cancer. Well, let's check this guy out, man.
Patient, she said, they gonna get you. They gonna get you.
So let me stop you there. You said I cured my 13 AIDS patients.
Yeah.
So you can cure.
AIDS, sickle cell, lupus, herpes, blindness, diabetes, paralysis, and others.
Okay, so they come knocking on the door and
So knock on my
like
door and
this
put me
guy's
in
saying,
jail.
he found a cure for cancer and I don't know what else, but it's kind of crazy how they could link this death to this doctor simply because he was doing a documentary for, well, here's why they linked it to this doctor. Well, a lot of people theorize that this guy, Dr. Sebi, was also killed under custody of the Honduran officials because like I said, he was a controversial figure. Although he died of pneumonia, a lot of people said that Dr. Sebi is linked to this whole conspiracy.